let's start with this. Okay, what are the respective roles of Jews and Gentiles in this world and the next? Good question. Okay, let's begin and understand how this, what this Jews and Gentile things is. Well, I'll start with telling you the beautiful parak of Ramchal on this, and he says something very, very profound. I don't know what's taught it in one place or the other. Ramchal says like this: God created this world, A, B, for a purpose, whatever that purpose is, I don't know, for a purpose. For that purpose, he created a certain type of Homo sapien with a certain type of elevated character and mindset and capabilities, which is called Adam. That was the person, the species, whatever that was. We're not doing Bible at the moment, but Adam. Okay, Adam Arishna, you usually call him that way, right? Adam A. Okay, so we understand Adam. Now, Adam was at a certain level of intelligence, feelings, understanding, perception, as the Chazal describe him, the Gemara describes him, that he was, so to speak, from one side of the world to the other. He had a tremendous understanding of things. Rambam describes that he was so hyper and so intelligent that he didn't even didn't relate to emotional or subjective feelings as an issue. He saw himself totally as Yitzir Kap Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu, and a vehicle of the realization of God's agenda, and that's where he was. If he would say, in metaphor, would say he was already reborn on the Olympus. For you guys, the Everest. Okay, we know what the Olympus is. Okay, yeah, he was born on the Olympus. Okay, I'll leave it at that. Okay, he saw things differently. He experienced things totally differently, and it was this man, this man, which was at the level appropriate for taking the world to where it was supposed to be. That was the agenda. God doesn't create things for the kicks. You know, he created certain, just you create animals or whatever for certain purposes. There's X amount of arms to the octopi. There's a reason for that too. And there's X amount of corals in different shapes. For whatever the reason that is, I do not know. And anyone thinks he knows doesn't know. So we're left with one thing on. So God created man of such a high stature. It wasn't because he was going to make him feel good. This whole idea that God created the world for man to perfect himself is it's quite tainted with Christianity. This is a God-centered universe, not man. Man is just it's true, the man will perfect himself, but that perfection is part of God's plan of God wanting to fulfill his agenda. Man is not the agenda. Man is maybe the locomotive. To be for man with just the agenda, why in God earth would I need the different, I don't know what, rock formations in Africa, which many men will never see. There's a endless species in the Amazons which human beings will never encounter, okay? Definitely most of history hasn't encountered them. Whatever happens in the future, God and the angels knows, you know what I mean? There's so many asteroids and planets and stars which only recently we became aware of their existence, to say the least. So obviously the encounter with man, man somehow must bring all this to some meaningful reality, how and what I do not know at the moment. But it's very clear that there's more than just man here, okay? So this man was supposed to fulfill that agenda. Now that man, whatever happened in Eden on that Black Friday, it's called, right? This Friday, so on that Black Friday, Cyber Friday, and whatever, episode Friday, okay, the cardinal sin happened on that Black Friday. It's a big riot. Black Friday is a bad day because it's full of cardinal sin. And man basically, without going into it, was kicked himself off the Everest. He was no more in the Olympus. He was actually down in the pits. No, I don't think he's low as we were, because even afterwards he still was capable of speaking to God as a prophet, etc. So let's just say, but compared to being, you know, I went in the Olympus with all what that means in the finer historical context, yeah, he's in the trenches. got kicked off the mountain. He left Eden, but actually threw himself out of Eden. Eden was not appropriate for him. He's not there anymore. So in all reality, at this stage of the game, history should close. Because if the world was made for purpose A, and for purpose A you need Homo sapien at level 10, when Homo sapien is now is wherever he is, so Gamarno, there's no Kali to bring the world to the world, okay. God should say, well, I gave free will, I wanted it to work in a certain way. It didn't. Okay, the game's over. It's a game breaker. It was nice, close the door, and it was nice to see you. This is what logically, what one would have thought would have happened. But once again, Rabbis Maxhavas Levish, Vatzas Hashem Yisakum, God doesn't give up on his dream. What does God do? Because God realizes that man, although he fell off the Olympus, he still somehow has within him the properties of coming back on the Olympus. He has that possibility. Okay, now it didn't happen yet. Okay, yes.
What is the Olympus?
Whatever the station Adam was at that point of time when he was created. Do you expect me to tell you what it was? I wasn't there. Okay, whatever he was, he was. Just look at how he's described in Rambam and Nevuchim, which we learned together, and different midrashim. You know. These are all poetic, right? He made the sun look small. He saw from the beginning of the world to the end of it. Whatever this type of reality is, means he saw things in a totally different way of reality. We say spiritual, it sounds fuzzy. So I'm going to say no, he had a totally different sense of existence, totally different sense of perception of reality, much profounder than anything you can dream about. Like Moshe Rabbeinu was Kleingeld compared to him. Okay, that's all I can say. Okay, he would think up his petty change compared to him, as far as that's concerned. Yitzir Kapav Shara Kadosh Baruch Hu, he was the perfect human being. He wasn't supposed to die. There was total synchronization between his soul and body, therefore there was no reason for him to leave it. He was supposed to live forever. Gzeirus HaMisa came together with the Chet B'Adam HaRishon, my dear friends. We discussed this once, I recall, one of these sure. So at the end of the day, this was the perfect man, okay? So that's I call it man on the Olympus. Okay, he's not there, but the only thing is he does have the capability, so God actually decides to detour in history. The only problem is I need more than one person. Now, what he did is basically says, well, man, he gave man basically a 20-generation laboratory experience in which now one would say that the character or the DNA, the metaphysical DNA properties of humanity would now be defined very beautifully and really an evolutionary process by people themselves. It's where people would bring themselves within the 20 generations coming. This would define, this would close the door on the lab. Where they would come, how could they elevate themselves from getting somewhat closer to be candidates to getting up to the Olympus, so to speak, within 20 generations, man was going to make himself. And that's exactly where, in other words, what God did is let's see where man can go. If I can get somebody here in 20 generations, which will finally be able to bring the world back to that Olympus, and after that finally start getting where I wanted to get on that first Friday, okay, so I took a big, what's a few thousand years for God? Somehow, whatever reason he created the world, this wanted to do. I don't want to say the word worth it, because I'm not sure I can use that. I'm sure I can't use that language when I'm talking about God. But whatever it be, this is what he did. So for 20 years, he basically let man, let's see where he'll go. And however these things are divided into families, tribes, nations, whatever they are, Yipordu or Oretz, etc., the Pasuk brings down, these families or these groups of man, each one of them was actually creating himself for 20 generations. And after the end of 20 generations, which is actually the Dora Palaga, now I can do more about this, but we're not doing things inside. I want to get an idea to answer this question. At Dora Palaga, exactly at that point in time, when Abraham was already here, etc., at that point in time where people were dispersed, the identities were stopped, were made. It's where you got, that's from now on, that's where the metaphysical DNA of your soul, of your religious persona, of your metaphysical composition. That's what you are. And once that's what you are, that's what your children will be, and grandchildren will be, and great-grandchildren will be. Like an elephant finally evolved to whatever it evolved. And from now on, all elephants look like him, right? Or I don't know what. Different species evolved in different ways. And when finally evolution at that point in time stopped, at least the great progression, and all of a sudden, okay, this is what it is. You know, I hate to say it, the zebra has stripes, and the giraffe got a long neck, okay? Okay, from now on, all the giraffes have long necks, okay, and small, thin tails, and big leggies, you know. That's what they look like, okay? So that's the same thing here. So what happened was that exactly at the end of Dor Palaga, at that point, at the dispersion of the nations, this is where the laboratory experience of man perfecting himself stopped. And whoever was, wherever they were, come on, the game's over. Okay, let's see what you did. Well, there was only one man which actually became a candidate to break the ceiling, break the glass ceiling. His name was Abraham, because all of society had plunged into paganism, hedonism, and all the other things we discussed under these past weeks, okay? They were not doing well. The only Homo sapien which actually did do well and took the world somehow back towards Eden, if we may say, is good old Avram. So what happened at that point of time, the laboratory thing ceased, and whatever Bnei Midian were, that's what they were. Midian is actually later, okay? Whatever, different kaftorim, whatever they're called over there, you can look up the different Bnei Yefes, Bnei Chom, etc. Each one of them, now, it's the tool chests that he has, these metaphysical capabilities, okay, the properties of what their metaphysical composition is, the DNA of their souls, if we will call it, has been defined by the accumulation of 20 generations of activity of this type of man, and this is where they're at. This is the best they got. Okay, now I'm going to work with you. So now God, now I talk at a single level, because we talk about private conversion, that's something totally different. This is not the place to discuss how a convert actually develops a whole new soul identity. I'm not talking about yichidim, I'm talking about umos, because when I'm talking about Darapalag, I'm talking about umos. Shivim umos, okay, the shivim umos. So the shivim umos, they all each one of them has a different composition. Every nation is something else, has a different properties, can develop differently. Now, what are they? So what I'm looking at now, God has a world in which he wants to bring it to a certain agenda. And obviously, originally he only had one person prepared. He didn't need the whole spiel of history. This one person, with whoever it was going to do it. If you read the Midrashim, whatever it is, you know, that Shabbos was supposed to be bingo. The game's over. Now we go to another phase, okay? It was really supposed to be Shabbos. You want to know the Eitz Das was supposed to be his Shabbos meal after he ate the Eitz Chaim. He jumped the gun. He didn't have patience. He decided to be an Oiber Chacham. Okay, I'm not going there at the moment. I want you to understand, though. So what happened is we're finally trying to go back to Yom Shekuli Shabbos. We're trying to do this, and so God now realized he has a whole group of people. One person won't be able to do this. So now look at yourself like having a major event, which you need instead of having, like once it used to be a Rambam, today you need a few think tanks with a million computers, and they still don't do what good old Rambam knew how to do, with his good old quill and parchment, okay, not even have a decent Mont Blanc pen, you understand? He knew more and did more than who knows how many others that are walking around. It's true. So think of Adam Arishan, he was going to do it. Now we have this big mass of people, and somehow this mass of people is needed, because obviously the souls in this world are needed, the amount needed to bring history to its end. There's no one here which is not purposeful in that reality. We need each one of you to do something which will ultimately get this train to the station, so to speak. Okay, this is the way it is. That's why every person, every Homo sapien, everything in history is needed. And I'm talking about Homo sapiens. I'm not talking about the animals. So the animals, since interestingly enough, the species are needed. As I pointed out many times in Das Rambam, there's a Rambam, Ramban, Rashba, Ramak, Ari, everyone until Baal Shem Tov. The Kadosh Baruch Hu really doesn't care about the local cat or the local, or squirrel, or local pigeon, depends what city you're in, okay? No, he cares about the species. Yes, if the Tyrannosaurus is not here anymore, because God decided to finish its job. Okay, if the big mammoths aren't here anymore, they finished their job or whatever it was in the broad picture of history. But I get the local cat still running around. I mean, he ain't finished his job yet. Okay, and the local, well, we have ravens in Harnov, so it must be a lot of ravens. Ravens got a job, whatever it is. I mean, just that I don't know the job of every person in this world. I have no idea. Okay, but I do know one thing. If each one of them has a job, that each one of them has a tool chest, a metaphysical tool chest, which will allow him to fulfill his job. If once upon a time you had Superman called Adam Arishan, today we have a whole humanity is our new Adam Arishan. The total effort of total humanity, each one doing his job, fulfilling his potential, spiritual potential. What is spiritual gets me nervous because it sounds like emotional. That which God wants him to do, which somehow will bring the world to its end, which I don't know what it is. This is basically the job of all of us. Now, that's why every nation has a different tool chest than the other, because you have different metaphysical DNA, and therefore we don't expect a caboose to be a locomotive. But let's understand one thing. No one is more important than the other. Okay? Because when you have a motor, my dear friends, okay, the piston is important, but the freaking spark plug is also important. The car can't move without a spark plug. I know how to tell it to you. The motor is obsolete without a spark plug. And you can't move without a carburetor. You can't move without a distributor. Okay, should I go on? And these new cars with these little microchips, take one little chip out and the whole freaking thing don't work. I don't mind if you take away the leather seats and the Bose sound thing. That I guess God put that in it too because he wants you to drive in comfort. So we have so part of the movement is a movement with comfort. So you also put leather seats and a Bose sound system in the car. You can feel, it's a beautiful world, right? Aesthetics, etc. All this is obviously the way God wanted this car to move. But at the end of the day, there's no question that to say that the motor is more important than the spark plug is an idiot. It has a more complex job, and therefore it's much more complex to make. It has to have different properties to it because that's one bit to his job. But let me tell you, the motor cannot do the job of the spark plug either. Try driving a car without electricity. You can look at it as it looks like Neres Hanukkah. It ain't going anywhere. History will not go anywhere without everybody in it. Everybody means everybody, including the Bowery bomb. Which is Mizera Chom. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, what job is more important than the other? I think they're all important. There's nothing that's more. It's a relative term, which is a joke. Once you understand that each Homo sapien has a totally individual job and no one else has what you have. I get it right now. You were born and put in a certain place in history to contribute your part to this great mosaic, the great trek of bringing the world to where it's going to be. No one, if someone else did your job, you wouldn't be here. The only reason you're here because you in a certain situation are here to do that job. That job couldn't be done before you and needed a soul with certain properties. Now, hypothetically, if you burn to a cinder because you don't do your job, another soul with similar properties will come down. There's no question about it, okay? There's enough up there to feed the process, so to speak. But let's put this on the table. Each person here at the moment has a specific job there, and no one else has a job. Therefore, you're not better or worse than anybody else. You're either filling your job or not filling your job. Basically, you're playing against the house. You're not playing with anybody else. This is not a poker game. You're betting against the house. I don't know if you know what I mean. You're the croupier, man. He's the one you're playing with. You're not playing against anybody else. Therefore, you're not better or worse than anybody else. It's an idiotic state. I have very little respect for the usage of those terms. I mean, I feel terrible about them. I'm better, I'm worse. You're an idiot. Not better, you're worse. You're shite. You don't understand what human beings are, okay? Adam Nivra Yechili means exactly that. You are not to be compared with anybody. You are unique. You are a very unique Schaffhausen. There's nothing like you. There's only the only one made this watch. You know, it's a Bruegel watch. You know, there's only one of it in the world left. Marie Antoinette's watch. That's what you are. There's no one. There's the only one left. Okay, okay. That's what you are. Or there used to be two stamps I remember, which were very choshev. So we'll go and guy tore one, and then had the other one, and became worth so much more. You know what I mean? You know, that's what you are. You're a ben yachid. No one is like anyone. Period. So none of you are better than anything or worse than anything. You are either fulfilling your potential, so then you're wise, or you're not fulfilling potential and you're a waste of space, and it's about tashchis on your mother's morning sickness. That's all. It's one of the two. You either have a justified existence or you don't. Okay? Better or worse don't exist in any intelligent human being's lexicon. It's a sickness of the Western world, which you're all marked by a curve. When you go to a good school, you're marked by a curve. How good are you compared to the others in the class? This is a horrendous, dehumanizing approach. Or you feel you're nothing more than a social security number. So there's a number before your number like you, and all the digits look the same. Okay? Yeah, but what can you do? They don't understand what custom-tailored clothes looks like. If you understand what a real custom-tailored suit was, you'd understand. You think you're off the rack. You're not. You're custom-tailored. And not like the American custom-tailored means they play off the rack, they fix a little bit the shoulder. Go, I'll show you. Tailored. Like my tailor makes my frock, you understand? That's it. You know, it's mine. No one else can fit into it, believe me. It's made for my bumps and my curves. That's who I am. Okay? So you have to understand that's the way it works. Okay? So there's nothing better. So when you said Atav Achatanu Kalamid, doesn't mean you're better than John Paul the 23rd. He got a problem. He's no Ovid of a Dezor, so he probably didn't do his job. He was in hell. Okay? Because he wasn't Mekayim Shibmitz of Neineh, because the Tziv of Moshe Rabbeinu, because he believed he was Ovid of a Dezor. And these people who don't know how to read a Taisus think that there's a Taisus that says that Christianity is not a deserve, but anybody that knows how to read a Taisus well doesn't even have such a hava meaning. Okay, if I hear Lekach, the Teresh Kasil, and the Yehuda, and the Kol V'Gdolei HaPoskim. Yeah, but there's some people which don't read too well in the Rishonim, and they read the Reader's Digest of Judaism, so they think Christianity is never. It's a prost deserve. Okay, take it from me. I read it. Okay, it's a Vedazor. Especially if you're a Catholic. Are you kidding? Maybe if you be a good old Protestant, we can talk business, you know what I mean? You're basically a koifer in most of the stuff. You're okay. You're still a koifer. But when you're a good old-fashioned Roman Catholic doing the Eucharist, know that you're an Ovid of Vedazor. Mahadrin, you know. The whole spiel works with you. Okay? But anyway, so that's another pasha. So everybody has his job. So are you better than I don't know, some guy? No. Do you have a more important job? Yes. Do you happen to have, because you have this certain DNA, you have certain capabilities for this job, God has a unique relationship with you? Yes. You're much more accountable than others. You also, therefore, get other reward more than others because your efforts are stronger. Lefum sara'aga, you live a harder life, so we're going to reward you. Granted. But the result, the purpose is not for you to have like some people think the purpose is to have schar ba'olam haba. You sound like you must be Muslim. That's what they think, okay? They only think of when they get themselves killed, they'll have the Lamed Vav Tzadikos up there, and that's going to be their party, okay? I'm sorry. That's not what Judaism is. Read Rambam, for goodness sakes. It's not what Judaism is. It's all one agenda. It's God's will that the Lord's will be done. So the answer is yes. All people are created equal, not equal opportunity, not equal job, but they're equally important, period. Are you a Ben Bris? Yes, because you're a Ben Bris, because of the unique character of your grandfather, and that's never your soul. God creates a Bris. Yeah, because I have a relationship with you. I don't have a relationship with the local cockroach. Why? Because I can't have dialogue with him. Okay, so God also has relationship with certain types of souls and other people that he doesn't have dialogue with. What's the problem? Just like there's more dialogue with the intelligent, according to Rambam, than those who are not. We discussed as far as Hashgacha Pratis is concerned. He cuts a covenant with certain types of souls which are, let's just say, have the potential of getting on top of the Olympus. He likes to talk with people at Olympus level. He doesn't talk to people at the non-Olympus level. And though we're not Olympus level, we're going there, and we're going to be there. And the Torah says, Adis, we're going to get there. So he's willing to invest in the future. As I said many times, Moses invests. He doesn't save, he invests. Okay, so God also invests in our futures. This is basically what this is. So that's the answer to your first question. What the exact roles are, I can tell you that the roles of Judaism is basically to have that relationship with God, and therefore it was through them to introduce monotheism to the world and the covenants of Sinai. Now, the covenants of Sinai are two. The covenant of Sinai to the Jews, which has 613 major precepts, which are a few million laws. And in the covenant of Sinai to the Noahides, to those who are not Jewish, it has 7 major precepts with hundreds of thousands of halachas. Okay, this I'm not going to start explaining Baruch Hava what this is, but that's the way it is. They all come from Sinai, and that's why the halacha is that a guy has to be Makabel, if he's Makabel Sheva Mitzvah Bnei Noach, because of the Kabbalah Sinai, he's called a Chassid U'Masor, and he has Olam Haba. But it has to be because he accepted, because of the bris of Sinai. He also has a bris of Sinai, not the bris of Klal Yisrael. He has another bris, the bris of Noach. The bris of Noach as told to the world at Sinai. So Sinai is basically the name of the religion. It's one religion. It's a religion. It's called a relationship with a covenant with God. That's what your religion really is. They call it Judaism. That's all later day reality. It's the bris at Har Sinai. The two brises, the bris of Noach comes from Har Sinai, and the bris of and our bris comes from Sinai, Pasuk. So there you have it. So where do their goals? Their goals is to fulfill their covenantal relationships. And if they don't fulfill their covenantal relationships, they're not fulfilling their purpose, and that's a problem, to say the least. Yes.
And why did Hashem decide to create Chava?
I fail to understand. Why did he create dogs? Just answer the question.
Originally just created Adam.
No. Read the Gemara Sanhedrin. That's not accurate. He created an androgynous being, which is both male and female, and then he split them. You didn't read the Gemara Sanhedrin. Tribe of Talmud, very important part of our tradition. Now, for further understanding what that really means, I mean, I don't really think there's 2 faces and he cut it down. It's a metaphor for something, which I'm not going to teach you at the moment. Let's take one thing for granted. What you read in Bereshis, as the Ramban says, he doesn't say why God wrote the book. We don't understand it anyway. Okay? So, don't know, okay? I can only work with Gemara. Gemara I work with, and one of the precepts of religion is emunas chachamim, which means that the emunah in the Kabbalah of Messiah of Torah Sheba'al Peh doesn't mean believing your local rabbi. Nothing to do with it at all. Emunas chachamim in the Mishnah simply means the emunah in the Messiah of Torah Sheba'al Peh. It doesn't mean believing Reb Ber or believing Reb Chaim. No, don't believe anybody. Don't believe Taisvis. I heard this from Blazer Silva. I remember Adayah Mazah, Reb Aaron's grandfather. He says, never trust the Taisvis, they're liars. Check out every Gemara they say. I don't trust, you know me, man. I don't trust anything. I heard this from an old, Goyen Oile. He was an Ilui, should be Iluyim. Like, Shugan Ilui, unbelievable. This man was like frightening, okay? The Rav everyone was frightened of him. Ron Kotler was frightened of him. And he said, I remember something, he said 2 things. Learn with 2 fingers, always learn with Rashi. You do that, you look at me, and I always do that. Say, well, don't trust the Taisvis. I'm a good Talmud. So there you have it. Weiter. So this is question number 1. Are all human equally important with Jews sympathy? It's basically the same, and those questions were answered. There's another question which the wording is so terrible, I have nothing to say. But there's no such thing as half-truths. When you tell me you are half pregnant, that means you're not. A half-truth is a lie. So if there's only one truth, that is the covenant of Sinai, any other depiction of the relationship of God and man is simply a lie. I don't want to even say the question because I'll Shalpi didn't use the language. I'm just saying, I'm putting up a statement. I'm saying a statement. Unless someone believes there's things called half-truths, which is it's not in English, maybe in another language. I speak a few of them. I don't know any languages where there's a concept of a half-truth. You can call it half-truth, you can call it a lie, one of the two. A truth has to be a accurate, A equals B, 1 and 1 equals 2. When you say 1 and 1 equals 3, it's a half-truth because the 2 and the 3, you can say that. Okay, now if we have if we understand that the revelation of God to humanity, period, is at Sinai, so whatever that, and we have a Tersh B'Ksav Tersh which tells us what it is, if this is the truth, anything else is a non-truth. Therefore, when a person comes and says in the name of God A, B, and C, he's a Navi Sheker. We have a pasuk in Chumash, means he's a liar. Okay, so whatever it is, and I'm not going to not to judge the values of different religions. Totally not. You're not. It'd be a beautiful conversation, but really, this is not the place. I don't think you've read enough to really talk about comparative religion. Be honestly, I guess you're too young. You still have to learn more. But honestly, no, I did. What do you want me to do? I studied the gospel. Okay, I'm telling you. Honestly, at the level of pure history, I mean, God. If I'd be anything, I'd be a Buddhist. At least that makes sense. Okay, because it's really not avodah zarah. At least it works with a certain seichel. The other stuff is like famous fairy tales. I can't understand how anybody thinks this is called half truths and there's nothing in it. You think a sheker, which is accepted by millions of people, makes it emes. Maybe you think so. Well, people tell me that way, right? Doesn't everybody say this, right? Yes, right. So, right? We had this conversation before, Sam, right? Yeah. Don't all the Achriyan, they say, right? I also said Ashayotza today. So what? I mean, he say, because a lot of people repeat something, does that make something true? I never heard that. What discipline are you from? It's definitely not from the discipline. There's no such concept. Maybe Rav doesn't tell you it's a truth. Rav only says it's normative. Majority vote doesn't tell you academic truth. Only tells you what is the normative approach. That's what it does. We have no concept of numbers telling me truths. We have normative truth. God says, well, this is an academic truth, this is an academic truth. Proper doubt, machlekes b'sham b'sil. What do we do? What is normative behavior? We go basar roif. But did they say for 1 minute that Shammai is wrong because he's a minority? Are you funny? I mean, if you think 2 minutes about this, whoever says this, I don't even want to go into it. I mean, this is it's a very bad joke. So to say Roiv is a bearer is like something maybe they told you when you were a little boy, but I hope by then you figured out it's a sheker. It's a half-truth. It's called a sheker. So to say that there are, well, the opening statement was, other religions may very well be correct. See how, now I didn't want to go on to tell what the question is. That premise there is pashut. Probably the child wasn't said correctly, or the man does not formulate his ideas, or he's an ignorant fool, or he's a kaifer, or he doesn't understand what he's writing. The sentence as it is horrendous. There's no such thing. It's either is or yes or no. We'll leave it at that. So I don't want to deal with the rest of this. Let's go further. To what limit should we hold ourselves when interpreting Tanakh? Limits? Do we need to stick to what was advanced by those before us? Or are novel understandings all right? Now let me explain something. I already discussed a bit of this on Saturday night in my house. If you would have knew how to listen intelligently, you could have got a lot of the answer coming from that. That's the honest truth. You know what? Let's just say I don't think that any person, just because he knows, let's say, ancient Greek, can give a commentary on Homer's Iliad. He would have to understand the cultural background, the use of languages at the time. He'd have to understand the total history, etc., with all the literature around it, or be in it, to be a competent interpreter of Homer. Should he not be, just happen to know the language, but totally devoid of total context, etc. You can do what you want, but that's beget a little dog barking. That's not honest intelligence. So that's beget half-truths. Okay, so I think any person which is a competent interpreter of the Torah, You know what that now means? Okay. Competent interpreter would mean obviously understanding the total mass of language of Lashon HaKodesh and understanding the Sfat HaNevi'im and understanding the background, etc. Well, then, yes, you can definitely, you're allowed to do an interpretation whatever you want. I see no problem in it. If you're competent, that doesn't mean every Tom, Dick, and Harry walking here or wherever it only be and has a boichsvar and ate some Cheerios and has what to say. When I say competent interpreter, I mean competent interpreter. I don't know too many walking the streets anymore. First of all, he has to know Kol Terakula. He has to know Sfas HaKodesh. The Gra was a competent interpreter. You understand that when he says a pshat in the Chumash, I'm frightened because I don't know what he knows. I don't even know an Asir Seifo. Not Shaykh. I'm the dust on a Minnie Mouse's nails compared to the Gra. Okay. That makes it even less. That's also garnished. Okay, so when the Gra says something, I keep my mouth shut. I don't always agree. I don't think it's the simplest shot, but no. The truth of the matter is, in others, I believe I have to be a competent interpreter. I have to also take into account to understand, since Torah is written with Pshat Remez Drush Rasad, so in MS, I have to be able to really, if I really want to be competent, I should be able to know all the different levels of Pardes to be able to say that one fits into the other, as I discussed that Friday night. Is there value in this? And as you want to know, are you really telling me Pshat, okay? To what extent does this say Pshat? Well, I mean, I'm going to take it even at a lower level. I think the Abarbanel was a decent. At least he knew his Tanakh well. I don't know if he was a Talmudi. He knew his Tanakh well. He knew his Jewish thought very well. He was very Jewishly in culture to master the language. Quite a bit of his plagiarized, by the way, from the Ran. If you open up a lot of Rans, there's a lot of Rans found in the Abarbanel. But that's Der Chagav. He was influenced by the people of the era, and there were some great people in that era. But okay, but I can somehow live with that. But I assume I think you can all be as competent as the Abarbanel. There's no reason why you can't raise the Malbim. You can't be a Malbim. You can be a Malbim. Hopefully you should be a Malbim. But you just have to be comfortable knowing the total mass of material, and probably also being very well knowledgeable in Divrei Chazal, to understand what you're up against. You don't just walk away. Let's see how Chazal, if they're talking at the level of Pshat or Midrash, and if they're talking at the level of Pshat, if you want to say something, there has to be a reason that's definitely more competent than you. Figure out why you think your Pshat, there's certain problems that you feel comfortable with. You can't just be a little boy walking around. I heard some shurim from Mr. Rabbi X, Y, and read some books, whatever it is. I'm recorded, so I'm not going to do what I did at home. Okay, whatever it is, it means to say, yes, so there's no problem. Netziv wrote his own commentary on Chumash. Do I like it personally? I don't attach myself to it. Is it a source? No. Is it his understandings? Yes. Meir Simcha wrote a beautiful book, Meshech Chachma. I think some of it is profound and beautiful. So it's like Baba It has Idis Beins and Ziburis in it. It's got everything in there. It's a tremendous book. Malbim, wow. Now, do I agree with Malbim? Honestly, if you read the Akdama of the Malbim and his agenda, the Gra literally writes on this genre that it's terrible, wrong, shouldn't be printed. All these genres are trying to stick Medrash Halacha to make it into Pshutas or Mikra. That's Mamash a Gra and Mishpatim that says this is wrong. So he's very much against the Ksava Kabbalah and the Malbim. Very interesting. Their whole agenda is basically to try to explain Medrash Halacha as Pshuta Shemikra, and the Gra says, Loi Tov Elisha Yisim. Mamash writes on these things. And his students from Menachem Ilya wrote a big book against it. So is it a viable option? Well, if you don't accept that Gra, I guess it is. But if you do accept the Gra, Hirsch is he's very innovative and creative. He also based himself on a whole discipline of etymology, which is created on his own, not researched, not scientifically off the charts. He created a whole understanding of roots of etymology of Lashon HaKodesh, which really doesn't exist. And you have to understand that based on his Haggadamos, he made some beautiful, insightful interpretations. But I don't own the book because I can't stand it. I can't handle it because I know the Mechiteshi, these Shroshim are the same. You have to know that. Is it or isn't it? There's a lot of Hirschian etymology, which is really his own concoction. Now, if he was a master of Semitic languages, maybe I'd talk about it, but that wasn't his doctorate. So, so what's it worth? I don't know. He was a very important person. and very big, Choshver Tam Chacham and all the nice words, but he did great things for Judaism. Do I personally think that's a great book to own? I don't own it, but I don't know a lot of things. It doesn't mean anything. Do I enjoy reading it? No, because I really have those problems, just like I have problems with Malbim because of the Gra. I'm not saying they're not valid books. I'm saying that I personally, I prefer learning, Rashi and Ramban and Chizkuni and Proshor and I prefer learning those people that I would paskin with them in Aguna. Those are the people I'd like to understand how they learn Pshat and Chumash. The Taisvis, the Rosh, they're around. So when John Doe just writes this free thing where, for example, the buzzword, I try looking for chiastic structures everywhere or things like that, or buzzwords, milah mancha, all these beautiful literary approaches, which are interesting. It's just so interesting to know because it all started Wellhausen's boy. It's a literary approach which started actually the late 1800s. And it never hit Judaism, it's the honest truth. It's not there, okay? It was never there in our traditional way, but that doesn't mean it's not valid. Doesn't mean it's not valid. But for that, you'd have to make sure it's pshat and not medrash. Many of these people using these things make their own private symbolisms. So you're making symbolism, so you're telling me you're writing a medrash. I prefer medrash rabbah, medrash tanchuma. If you're telling me pshat nicha, but when it goes into these interesting symbolisms, because there's a word here and a word there, and they try to put it together, making a gzera shava and a hekesh, with greatest respect, Rashi holds me first that the other ein adam doing gzera shava mi'atzmai, and right, the Fursha Gemara. So now all of a sudden these guys are making gzera shavas left and right. I don't know. It says Mefursha you can't, and they somehow feel they can. This is against Kabbalah's Chazal. You don't work with gzera shavas. You understand? According to Rashi, all you do meet is except for Kal V'chomer, neither Kabbalah. Niche, but many of the Rishonim argue. So at least Zereshava and Hekish. That's Mefurish. Zereshava and Hekish, that's a Rashi and Sanhedrin. And Rashi and so definitely Rashi and Sanhedrin, Beib and Surah. Needs a Kabbalah Messina, that we know that these words or these topics are mukkah. Just because there's a word here and a word there, therefore these things somehow parallel each other, is a whole mahalach which is against Kabbalah's Chazal. So when you say new things, it depends. It has to work with the tradition, it has to work with the klalim of Chazal. So not every new thing is terrible. Some of them are very nice. But not every new thing is good. Some of them are atrocious, okay? And some of them, I think, are out of the pale. So that's the broad answer. So you really have to be informed, intelligent, and know what the limits are. For example, in Divrei Agad, there's the 13 klalim, just like the Yud Gimel Midah Torah addresses. There's lamed-based klalim of Rabbi Yisrael Galili on Agada. It's a brisa. You can look it up in any decent book. Okay, do you know these klalim before you start talking? I mean, it's so interesting how people are free and think it's a free world. It's not a free market there. It's an elitist. It's a closed market for the knowers. The rest is okay to say it on a pulpit, for Yizkor appeal or something like that. But don't call it pshat and don't call it pshuto shel mikra. Call it my views on, which is legitimate, as long as it's not fear, do what you want. I don't think the Netziv thought he was saying Pshuta Shem Bikra. There's no way. I don't believe it couldn't be. Okay, why do I say this? Because I see his chidushim on Shas, how he's very accurate and very and shiltis. And here he's very drushy, if you know he's a mikdavar. He wasn't saying pshat, he was saying his insights based on the biblical language. Okay, that's what he was doing. Which is legitimate. He doesn't call it pshuta shemikra, he doesn't call it pshat. Can one make a hashkafa out of a thing like that? Well, you can say it's the hashkafa of the Netziv, but you can't say it's the hashkafa's Chazal. You'd have to know where it lies in Chazal, and the Netziv alone won't be a mucker. It's very important to say this, because I know many people, you quote this Gemara, and it's not exactly canonized. You have to be realistic. When you say a Ramban, a Rashi, a Rosh, oops. That's just like, I don't argue with them in halacha, I don't argue with them anywhere, okay? As far as the Ashkafa, they had a clear understanding of certain things. Just because X says something, okay, very nice. If it's in Pshat and Remez and Drush, theology is not philosophy. It must come through through revelation. So it's got to lie in these texts, either Pshat, Remez, Drush, or Sod, but that's a lie in the text. hermeneutics, are broad, Jewishy things are not sources of theology. They're insightful, they're inspiring, and they're great tools which are needed. We need this. We're not just in cerebral animals, and we need excitement, we need feeling, it's all true, but these cannot be a source of anything. Please, I want you to remember that. Okay, next.
What is Kotar Kul?
Esther Chaim Kanevsky, he finishes it every year.
Not enough. Much more.
If you really want to be a real balabas, you have to know it all. The honest truth, I can tell you the honest truth, yeah.
Everyone in this room can teach.
I think we all can and should. That's the problem. Don't waste your time, just finish it. Weiter, our entire belief of Torah is based on Masorah. My belief of Torah is, when I say Torah, that's not accurate. I accept the Shach. I have no Masorah on the Shach. He wasn't Messinai. I accept the Magen Avram, and I don't have Masorah Messinai in the Magen Avram. People accept the Mishnah Berurah's Achros, and believe me, there's nothing there either. We accept, it's not actually true. What we have in Masorah, which we have to have, is the Kabbalah Torah Shebal Peh. We have Torah Shebal. The Torah Shebal Peh, the Rambam elaborates in the Akdam of the Mishnah, which I once taught. I suggest you all read it. It's very important to read the Akdam of the Mishnah. Akdam of Pirush Mishnah. Yes, Torah Shebal Peh, Torah Shebal in Pirusha, Sinai, which is what we call Torah Shebal Peh, which does not mean D'Rabbanans, does not mean new halachas of even deraisis, things which Moshe heard and interpreted the psukim. That's what you need. That's what Chazal say. The Torah needs Emunas Chachamim. Means we have to, the Rama writes the Hadya, what's called not Bikurfs, is Machish Torah Shebal Peh, Torah O Magideo. Magideo doesn't mean the stipler. Magideo means the Chachmei HaMasorah, which said over the Torah Shebal Peh. The Torah Shebal Peh is already here, my friends. It's already written in the Gemara and the Mishnah. That part is not needed anymore. The Emunas Chachamim, the Mishnah Perek Avos is talking about, is not. That's not there, okay? You have to trust them that their Kabbalah was an accurate Kabbalah. So you still have to trust them, but now they're gone. There's no new ones. I don't need a Masorah in how to say Pshat and the Taisvus, because I hate to say it, Pshat and the Taisvus has changed so drastically through the generations. It's are you kidding? I mean, the thinking the way it was in Galicia or in Poland or in Lita in the earlier years, wasn't it close to what you people are doing today? Even Shaykh, once upon a time, before you mamish knew Shas, you didn't dare open your mouth. Today, you have a logical way of thinking. You make two dinim, and you say two hoops, and you throw the balls in. And you have a chabura, okay? It's a chabura that you're chayiv chamishit dvarim on. Usually, it's beginner chayvul b'chavera, but at the end of the day, that's a way of thinking which didn't exist. Read the Akdama of the Marcheshes, where he describes the new, he said, this new way of thinking, it looks like chemistry to me. He's talking about Reb Chaim. He said, this is a new way which has become popular with the young ones because they don't know much, which is true. It's become very popular because you really don't have to know that much to be able to talk the language. That's the honest truth. You don't have to know much at all. As opposed to once upon a time the language demanded command of of so much before you could do anything. Okay, but so to say there's a Masorah in how to learn Taisvus, that's a joke. It's simply not true. It's historically off the charts wrong. Okay, the way we think today is heavily influenced by Reb Chaim's learning and teaching in Volozhin. Believe me, his grandfather Netziv did not learn that way. Open up the Netziv Sforim. Okay? Reb Meir Simcha didn't learn that way. Open up Rosh Sameach, for goodness sake. So, so there's so many people that learn differently. Did you ever learn the Tshuvas Neder Yehuda before? Or Cham Sefer? Or Kiveger? It's a different language. Totally different language. So is there a Masorah in that? No, there's no Masorah there. You basically, for whatever reason, cultural reasons, have adapted a certain way of thinking, and I'm not going into the whys and hows. And I guess you have to remember there's a lot of other ways, and I suggest you using it only as a springboard and find your own way of thinking. The fact that people somehow think there's a relay race. Okay, I got the Gra had a bag. He gave it to who? He gave it to Chaim Volozhin. Chaim Volozhin, who did he give it to? Obviously to the Beis Halevi. Beis Halevi gave it to the Gra. Reb Chaim. Did you ever see Reb Chaim and the Beis Halevi? They are polar opposites. Just look at the Sforim. You gotta be funny. You don't even. You need a pus for this. Just like said Avram Hoylitz Yitzchak. You have to tell Yosef Dov Hoylitz of Chaim because they don't look alike. They like so far apart that it's crazy. It's a Beis Levi is a palpul and otzum, going through roller coasters, and Reb Chaim is cuts through the middle. You wouldn't even believe that one was the teacher of the other. He probably wasn't. He probably was influenced, grew on his own, was an autodidact. Maybe I doubt if he was influenced from the contemporary scientific or philosophical world, although at that time many such similar ideas were forming. But I don't believe he had any real, it was in touch with that world, beyond its truth. So tell me Messiah about this, and I look and I laugh. It's people which are, you're a mushroom. You don't know history. I mean, if you know where we came from, there's so many different ways of thinking developed. This is one way. Right? Hopefully one day there'll be another way, which is beautiful. I think it's tremendous. I call Yom Gadalti, I learned Bir Agra a lot in my life. I never saw the word chalois in the Bir Agra. I never saw chalois din in the Bir Agra. Did you ever see I never saw it. I went through a lot of Bir Agras, never saw it. Now, the Rambam definitely didn't learn that way. I told you once, I once did a shir in YU, learning a Rambam, Alpi Chuvas Rambam, and then learning that Rambam according to Reb Chaim in the Sefer. They ain't close to each other. Then it's so funny because there's a Rambam with the Rambam himself explaining, if you know how to find this Chuvas and piece them together, you can mamish know what the Shita is. And then there's Reb Chaim. You're not even close. Not shaykh. That's is right. As the old saying is, what do Rambam understand? The Rambam, they're going to go to heaven. And some yeshiva bachas say, pshat in the Rambam. The Rambam say, I didn't say that. What do you understand? You're an old ancient Sephardi, I'm a brisker. I understand pshat in the Rambam. You know what I mean? That's what it's going to look like. You understand? I'm not going into now the validity of trying to interpret the Rambam with other tools when he himself is available. I don't want to do this here because, once again, there's a limit to what I want to do here. And that's even worse. Okay, so let's go further. So that's basically as far as that's concerned. So the only thing now, therefore, actually, we do accept certain things. We have no problem of accepting, for example, there's a sefer of the Beis Yosef of his visions. There's a sefer, I have it at home. Okay, you're going to be going to Tzfat. They're going to show you the Havel where he sat and where he had these visions. It's near the Abu Haf synagogue. There's a sefer, one of the Rishonim, one of the Balei Taises, Marida or line called Shuels and Chuvas Min HaShamayim. Anybody can buy it. It's in the store. It's quoted extensively. It's all over. It's one of the Balei Taises. Okay, you have to remember that. That the fact that people had visions, etc. Now, do we believe them? It depends who they are. When the Gra tells me that he had a vision, I believe him. Why do I believe him? Not because he had a white beard. I don't even know he had a beard. I don't know what he had. I know the Gra through his writings. I know the Gra through the enormity of his scholarship, of his personality, just by reading his Musar, etc. It's the man, like, I would bend over backward just to go a mile near him. It's kulei Torah, kulei emes, kulei kedusha, kulei Torah. I don't have a stronger cheskes naimanis than the Gra. You understand? For me, it's a davar pashut. Okay, when the Gra tells me, now the Gra obviously felt the same thing about the Ari. I want you to understand that because he spent a lot of literature writing on the Ari. So I mean, there's a lot there. You have to understand what we're talking about here. So we're talking about certain people which have historical credibility, not because of anything else, because we believe them in their visions. Okay, we trust them. The Gra trusted the Ramchal. Would you believe it? Even many people at the time did not. The Gra really held that everything is Kodesh V'Torah. The only reason Lithuanian Jews go near the books of the Ramchal is because of the Gra. In Chabad, there's no Messiah of the Ramchal. You won't find a Messiah Yisrael there. If you know the history of the Ramchal and the big machlekes around him, it's because of the Gra that he's very central in our thinking. Those who learn Kabbalah, so Gra together, most of them big Bekim and Kisvei Ramchal. The Leshem, which is the big Sefer Kabbalah, dealt heavily with Kabbalah Sagra, has a lot of discussions about the Ramchal, in the Ramchal, about Kabbalah, Klach Pesach Chochma, Divrei Ramchal, and Adar Bamor. Yeah, he's the source in that base mesh. Why? Because of the Gra. No, it's because the Gra saw what this was, and understood this was a very special person. Now, this person wrote a book called Tov Kuf Tesvav Tfilis, which basically had visions. The Malach Metatron used to come talk to him. Okay, what do you want me to do? Okay, he has you should read his Igros V'Tudos of the Ramchal. It's a Magnus Press. Professor Shimon Ginsburg, Tofrei Tzadik Beis. I own it, again. 2 volumes, Igros V'Tudos Ramchal. And you read his visions, and they're frightening. And the Gra accepted them as truth. And for me, and the Gra is an honorable man. You know, I mean, this is where I stop. Okay, I don't argue with the Gra, okay, because he knew enough, and he's so great that if he decided this is Emes, I'm a mouse. I'm not even a mouse. I'm a mini mouse. You know, garnished. Garnished. I'm not about plukta to argue why, because Gershon Sholem didn't like it. So what? I mean, the Gra. The Magen Avram is full of Kisvei Ari. Keseder, he writes Ksavim. He believes of Ksavim. It's all Kisvei Ari. Okay, we're talking about Amudei Ha'olam, which you respect, what your religious life depends on. Okay, and they were not like little boys that fell in love. Oh, wasn't he holy? Did I get a picture? You know what? He's not one of these grave hoppers. You know, they didn't read about G'daylim. They became them. Okay, that's the difference. You guys, you read about these, there's a caver and there's this. They didn't go to Kvarim, they didn't read Doilim books, they didn't Bab Meiser sat and they learned, okay? And Baruch Hashem would say to the Shmaya, called Limiter Lishmon, Nasik Mayin, and Gaber, and he asked to the Shmaya. The Chaim writes that the Gross said that a Maggid came to him, a Malach wanted to come to teach him Torah, and he told him, go away, I want to do it on my own. Okay, so if I would tell you someone came to me, you'd laugh, I would too, okay? Okay, but Reb Chaim Voloshener, I trust him. The Gra, I definitely trust. Okay, so the men's malachim come to people. Okay, if you'd read the Ramchal, you'd be frightened to read this. And this is the guy that you trust with your Mesilas Yesharim. Okay, it's your staple book. It's probably the most important ethic book that we have. You have to understand, so this is not a Kabbalah Messinai. What's the din halach as far as that's concerned? If you're kofer in this year, or kofer in Torah Messinai, no. Because kafir in Torah Sinai means the Kabbalah that we have from Sinai. Giluyim of later are not Kabbalah Sinai. That's already a ne'emanus about a certain person. The only thing is, Klal Yisrael is not stupid and has great ne'emanus of great people. Okay, and our Messiah is that we talk about Messiah. Do I have an ongoing tradition of mega minds which accepted these things as total truths and therefore would live and die by those things? Yes. I have that, but that's not what I call the Messiah Sinai. That's nothing to do with the basis of my religion. If you would be kaifer, and that wouldn't be a problem. Specifically about the Zohar, if you really want to know, I suggest reading the book called Kadmus HaZohar by David Luria, the Radal. It's a small book where he points out, already quoting multitude. I'm not going down to development, the story and the history of how this manuscript was found. It's really interesting. But once again, if you know if you're a Talmud Chacham, okay, and you read, so you know that big pieces of Zohar found in the Geniza, we found it by the Gaonim, we have pieces found in Ramban, we have pieces found in multiple places. We don't have the total book, granted, but it's not, unless this guy was a freaking Gaonim, they knew how to find books together, which he wasn't. He was a very choshev yid, but he wasn't perceived as a who knows who, John Doe or Harry. He didn't have the library, he didn't have the knowledge to put this all together. He wasn't that big, who knows who. So the Gra takes it as a given, okay? For me, that's enough. Not just the Gra, the Beis Yosef took it as a given. The Ramah took it as a given. The Marshal took it as a given, okay? And they're not little boys. The only one which had problems with it was Reb Yaakov, and then he pointed out it's definitely Tanaic literature, just he doesn't think it's Reb Shimon. He's right, because it's definitely not Reb Shimon. It's Reb Shimon's Cheder, because there are things there of Tanoim which lived after Reb Shimon. Granted, no question about it. When people say Shimon Bar Yochai wrote the Zohar, it's like saying that Rabbi Shmuel wrote the Mechilta. It's the Bay Rabbi Shmuel. We have to understand what that means. It's a school of thought, which is an academy which went further. Like Beis Shammai does not mean Shammai. Okay, Beis Hillel does not mean Hillel. Stam Mishnah, Stam Teres Koinim is Rabbi Yehuda. Believe me, There's a lot of things that which are not Rabbi Yehuda also. Okay, so you understand? People that were after Rabbi Yehuda. So yes, I repeat again, that's an interesting shaila, because if this is taka, here we're going into that part of Kabbalah, that part which is Kabbalah Messinai, according to the Ramban, according to Rabbi Yitzchak Saginor, according to the Raiva, that if we makrish, should be makrish to Shemopeh. So those midrashim that we have in Masari that they are Messinai, probably have to be careful with the Zohar. That could probably be a major problem. That's why certain people are machish desire, so let's just say that daily oil don't use them for Eidos for Kedushin. I'm not joking when I say this. I'm talking about Rabbanut Rashid at the moment. Doesn't use them for Eidos for Kedushin. I'm talking this man of Rav Kook. I don't want to say about a certain person came from a certain kat which didn't believe in the Zohar, so the Rav Kook didn't use them for Eidos Kedushin. But I'm not going there, okay? But as far as Kisvei Ari is concerned, and other things, definitely you wouldn't be a kaifer. You'd be an idiot. I mean, okay. Once again, I don't know what's worse, okay? But you would. I guess there's again Aiden for Shaitim too. There has to be one, and because you think you're smarter and understand the history more than the Gra, more than among Avraham, more than this. Relax, little boy. But I read something in English. I had this. Someone sent me a WhatsApp yesterday. Oh boy, don't know who it was. Thank God I didn't say. You know, we're talking about the development of Megillus Tainus. So he starts quoting me a story in ABC. He said, did you read their books inside? Actually, no. Read them. Okay. I just wrote, dubious source. Why is it dubious? There's so many other people who say the same thing. Right? They all quote X. Okay. He got the wrong guy. I read the garbage. Okay? So this is, you know what I mean? So funny. People love quoting without doing real research. You know? Doesn't Gershom Shalom say? Yes, he says. That and what, and $1.50 gets me a cup of coffee in Starbucks. It's not enough. You have to do your own research. You have to see some things are great. Great people make dumb mistakes too. You have to have the tools to be able to research. And if you don't have the tools, trust the Gra. On my word, you'll do well. Trust the Avram. Trust the Chazan. Trust these people which are mega thinkers, which wouldn't say a krimus slur in their lives. And if they live and die by this, continue. You live and die by this. Okay? You work with chazakis, you work with ravs, this is better. Okay? Just want you to understand. Weiter. How are we supposed to view the Avos and the Moors? The mamas and the papas. That was a band in the 70s. How am I supposed to use the Avos and the Moors? I discussed this at length on Saturday night. I find no reason to repeat this. Did they put this on? Is it?
I'm not sure.
It's on our WhatsApp thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let them look at that. I'm not going to deal with this now. Do we have any reason to acknowledge evolution? Why not? I acknowledge evolution. Is there any reason not to acknowledge evolution? No, there's no reason not to acknowledge evolution. As long as you believe in intelligent design, you have no problem at all. Simple answer. Next. Are there any theories, ideas contrary to our beliefs? There definitely are. If you don't believe in intelligent design, that's basically contrary to our beliefs. But if you believe in intelligent design, where the creation was a process, took eons of time, how would you know? Totally irrelevant, doesn't matter. There's no problem with it at all. Period. I can refer you to an unbelievable book by one of the Gedolei Talmidei Chazon Ish on this. I have it. It's not actually available anymore in press, and maybe now they started, because it was Schumer of Gedalia Nadel. Gedalia Nadel was Gedolei Talmidei Chazon Ish. Reb Chaim's children all learned by him. Reb Chaim Kanievsky. He was the guy. And he was very. I have some friends that learned by him. One of the people that learned by him was Reb Yitzchak Shilat. Reb Yitzchak Shilat is the Rashi of Malei Adumim. He's a prolific writer, brilliant man. He lived in Keren B'Yavne, actually. Wrote a book when he was a bacher here. He wrote a book on the sugis of Shofar and Rosh Hashanah, a big book. Then he went on. He opened up the yeshiva. He went from here. Went to Americas. From Americas, he went and he opened up yeshiva at Malei Adumim. He is an unbelievable, serious Talmid Chacham. Serious Talmid Chacham, and a scholar. I mean, he learned classic Arabic. Now he wrote a translation of the Ikros of Rambam and all these different things. And again, as opposed to Kapach, he decided, no, but he's a Gavra. There's someone that's a Talmid Chacham, a Yerushalayim, and a scholar. perfect example of what we would hope the Camp Yavneh alumni would look like. So he learned by Rabbi Dalia, and he used to hear by Rabbi Dalia, and Rabbi Dalia, and he, after post-mortem, he printed some of the shiurim, and the family didn't like it because they were a bit too innovative. So they basically bought up all the books and they made him sign that for 10 years he couldn't do anything about it, and then so people have it on the internet. So I suggest you go online to look for Vidalia Nadal, and you can get your PDFs. If not, I can send them to you. He clearly discusses, he actually ridicules people. What do you think? He writes, do you really think that that God went to a sandbox and put a little water and made like a man of him in Adama, like my kid did in kindergarten, blew into it, and Adam came out? Okay. You must have heard me say that once. Now you know where it's from. This is Rabbi Dalia Nadal, okay? So it's an evolutionary process to how it happened. I don't know how long it took, and God's describing it in symbolic terms. Why is he even doing it? That guy don't know why. I told you, the Ramban says he doesn't know why this has to be written, because we don't understand it anywhere. I'm trying to say, yes, we're talking about, so basically the basic concept of evolution, as long as there's intelligent design, you have no problems at all. Okay, are we good? Weiter. That basically answers it. How do we determine what is a parable in Bereshis? Overwhelmingly, we're supposed to accept, except for not a parable. They are describing things that happened in parable terms. That's in Maisa Bereshis. Afterwards, it's history. The only thing which we have no way of explaining knowledge is literally the Maisa Bereshis, because Maisa Bereshis is something which is not describing anything human, it's describing God's action. We have no clue. Anything afterwards, once Adam is kicked out of Eden, that's all. That's history, as I pointed out on that Saturday night. We discussed the meaning of the Bible and its purpose, and I'm not going to do that now. Here it said that trusting the rabbis is vital for mastery of Torah, which means amunas chacham. Yes, if you don't have amunas chacham, you don't have Torah Sheba'al Peh, you'll be a pretty freaking amoritz. That's all it means. How can we trust an establishment? You have problems? Don't vote Trump. What can I tell you? If you'd understand, that's exactly, if you understand who these chachmei of Besoira are, and you would learn their Gemara, you'd learn their Mussar, you'd learn Pirkei Avos, you'd be in awe of them. And I just want you to understand this one, a fact of matter. The Amoraim, I don't know what the Tanaim were, but the Amoraim were so in awe of them, halachically, they could argue what they want with them. They never dared. And that's a pretty strong statement. There was no halachic reason for the Amoraim not to argue with Tanaim. Actually, halachically, you can argue with Tanaim. It's often a Ram Hilchos Mamrim. But the Amoraim wouldn't. And the Amoraim said, why? It says, Im Rishonim ki bnei Adam anu ki chamorim. Im Rishonim ki malachim anu ki bnei Adam. Do you understand? It says, we're not going to argue. That's Hulk. I'm Mickey. Mickey doesn't argue with Hulk. Simple as that. Because why? Because he's so much bigger, so he knows so much more. I don't have the tools to argue with him. That's the only reason they don't argue with him. And now, the Rishonim do not argue with Amoraim for the exact same reason. For the exact same reason. And Enochanami, from the times of Beis Yosef and further, without going to the whys, how things were dispersed and why, no one argues with the Rishonim either for the exact same reason. The only one that argues sometimes with the Rishonim are transitional periods. Like the Gra will argue with the Rosh Mishat, Shatna Yerushalmi. Right, he does. He does. Rav is a transitional period. He argues with Tanoim. You know what I mean? But when we say Rav Tano Polig, that means he saw himself as such. You have to chap. That's what it means. L'maisa, when there's a machlekes between Rav and the Tano, we don't pass Rav. He argued. When you're these transitional period people, which am I here or am I there? Okay, the mashal, we don't. A rivash is not a rishon. It's Talmud Aran, but the game stops there. Okay, he's a transitional period man. You're going to probably hearing rivashes lately when you talk about kiyum aget becherish, or they'll tell you over a chuvas or rivash. I'll tell you right now, it's not a rishon. Okay, it's not a rishon. It's a transitional period man. Therefore, he's a Talmud Aran. Will depend heavily on the Ran, but he's not a bar plukta to the Ran. Let's get that straight. I want you to understand these things. So when we talk about the idea of, yes, we trust these people because we know how great they were. You know, for me, I don't know what the Rishonim are. But there's one thing I do know. I know the Gra, man. And the Gra was scared of them people. And the Gra is awesome. You know what? More than that, I don't know the Chazon Ish. For me, the only, after the Gra, there's the Chazon Ish. For me, that's the closest to my generation. I see that's perfection. I don't know anything better than the Chazon Ish. So as far as I'm concerned, Chazon Ish is a Tana. But he says he's Mickey Mouse compared to the Gra. And the Gra says he's Minnie Mouse compared to the Rajba. And the Rajba says he ain't nothing compared to the Rambam. And the Rambam says he ain't nobody compared to Ravina Ravashi. And Ravashi says he ain't even begin to anything compared to Rabbeinu HaKadosh. So we're talking about it's such a digression. So I respect these people. They big. Because, I sometimes say, you know why I believe in God? Because the Chazon Ish. Once I get my handles on the Chazon Ish, I can say Shtiklach Torah, I can mimic a lot of things, okay? I can shayb my brisker Shtiklach Torah. This can go simply. I don't like it, but I can do it, okay? A Chazon Ish, I can't write. I can't. No mesugel. Not shy. He's like, you have to be, it's another planet of thinking with a whole different roichav. Can you understand a person who writes on Kol Torah? He wrote on everything. So I might cut you in introduction, cut him tyrus. Everything! Not a bewusste stickel in Shtoris. So Shtoris I know how to do. Big deal. So you know that Chazak is to say also know how to do. So you know if you bekalach. That's a somebody, okay? That's the people I'm talking about. That's a... He's got the package, okay? So he's frightening, okay? Believe me, when you open up, he's frightening. Really frightening, okay? Okay, and he thinks he going near the Gra. So you know what? This goes for me a chain of literally I have an unbroken chain going all the way to Matan Torah this way. So for me, that's verified reality. So if they accepted the desire and they accept this, because Gershon Shalom didn't like it, or some other idiot that wrote whatever he wrote in Hebrew, it's not even a question. Don't waste your time. Weiter, next. Now we're going to the next page. I'm going to stop soon. See, I used to do this in a much better way on Friday nights, take all the questions into one and stay a hostical term, and now I'm doing it differently. I just want to get this done. Okay, this one I will not do. Next, don't judge your friend. Whoever wrote this didn't understand the Mishnah, so I'm not going to deal with this. How does one deal with Tzfat stories? You don't. They're the equivalent of Mother Goose fairy tales. How does one meditate? You sound like the Ger with Hillel. I don't answer questions like that. What are the 4 holy cities? It's a scam. There's no such concept. It all started with the schnorrers. They used to come from Eretz Yisrael to Chutzlars to make money. So you tell the people there's 4 holy cities, right? Hebron, Tzfas, Tver, and Yerushalayim, right? It's just a schnorr thing. There's nothing, there's no, it's meaningless. Tzfat is as holy as Ranana. Yerushalayim has Kedusha, that's Gemoros, Mishnayos, Psukim. You know what I mean? Hebron doesn't have Kedusha. The best it's a basic forest, which is Tomei. There's no Kedusha in these things. It's Kedusha Eretz Yisrael. There's no din, unless it's Botei Archaima. Botei Archaima, but Kedusha is Mechitzes. There's no... If it's not Botei Archaima, what can you do? You want to make up Kedusha? The Lord showed himself to Elijah at this stone. You sound like some guy with a tour guide, you know what I mean? In Tzfat, they'll tell you that. You know, it's as holy as holes in your socks, you understand? That's about as holy as... So this is a shtiyot. Okay, this guy didn't understand Meiri. I'm not going to deal with this. I love this idea of Judaism seems to be quite focused on turning away from physicality towards spirituality. That's actually only Rambam. Rambam believes that religion primarily should be just in the world of thought. And all action is basically a compromise because human beings are frail, etc. But that is not the approach of Chachmei Tzorfas at all, to say the least. Adrabah, they actually, the biggest raya is, the machlek is, what's the end of time? According to Rambam, the end of time is we'll get away with the soul, we'll all be up there in the heavens, without bodies, without any physicality, and we will be Nenem B'Ziv Ashchina. That's the Rambam per se. Everybody else, including all Chachmei Tzorfas and the Ramah, the Rosh Mishan, the Ramban, everybody disagrees. Everyone said the ultimate goal is after that thing up there in heaven is just like the Penn Station waiting room, waiting for your train. After history ends, all those who are worthy of coming down will come down. We'll go back to Neshamos in Gufim, and the ultimate Olam HaGemul is going to be Neshamos in Gufim Mamish. So this whole approach is only Rambam. Therefore, I don't understand the question too much. Rambam himself believes that yes, God become because of the necessities of frailty of human beings. They're not on the Olympus, not close to it. In the interim, that's what we need. We need physicality and mitzvahs and so on and so forth. Okay, let's go a little further. This is one which is really cool. I love this. Why is Judaism so centered around food? I guess I belong to another church. It's simply not true. If anything, I've seen shtiyot. So, true. Your mothers may think so, okay? They think, what's the Seder for? The Seder's for getting a meal. Mom, relax. You're supposed to be besapi season tribe. Finish the Agada fast. I got the knedlach waiting for you. No, you see, you understand, it works differently. It's not food, no. Weiter. Zmiris on Shabbos is
discussed many different foods.
Who? The Ibn Ezra? He also writes wine songs. You want to see? I have a collection, 2 volumes. You mean the Ibn Ezra song, Barburim Slav V'Dagim? Ibn Ezra, yeah. Should I show you his wine songs? They're really cool. He got paid for them.
That's it?
Yeah. Weiter. What does that mean? It was around before creation. I discussed this. Also part of that Saturday night. I will not discuss this here. If you were standing this I discussed today with somebody, so I'm not going to answer that. That's about our bias and free will. I had this conversation with Moshe, so I'm not going to do that now. Ask him. Okay, we did this. Sorry, I'm not doing halachic questions. I don't see how anything disagrees with this at all. It's a Rambam is a davar pasha that we have to believe mitzvahs because of the bris of Sinai, not because of anything before. That beforehand, the Rambam writes there was no such thing as commandments. Rambam writes in Meirah, there's no such thing as a commandment prior to Sinai. They were at the most, if Avraham Avinu was commanded Mila, he was also commanded to teach it to his children and let them accept it as God's suggestions. God offered a suggestion, and we hope you take it. But it was not a commandment. There were no tzivuyim prior to Sinai, so that answers all those odd questions about that. Tzivuyim started at Sinai. Even Sheva Mitzvah Bnei Noach, that with the Rambam writes, was a commandment to Noach to teach his children, tell them this was God's will, but not as a commandment to them. There's a big difference between commandment, which is a personal relationship between commander, vis-a-vis the commandment. No, I'm just telling you my will. No, either you follow it or you don't. Problem is, the fact is, if you know it's the will of God and you don't follow it, you're in trouble. And that's why Anshe Shechem were killed, because they didn't fulfill Sheva Mitzvahs Bnei Noach. You can look it up somewhere. I think Moshe wrote. I gave a shir on that in YU last year on values and commandments. Ask Moshe Rothman. He can probably give you a copy. Okay, he wrote a copy on that. I don't know if they put it online. I'm not bothered with that, but that's actually a discussion over there. Because according to Rambam, there were no tzivuyim. At the Rambam writes, they were killed on Shechem because they weren't mekayim Sheva Mitzvah Bnei Noach. The Ramban also says the same thing. So we see there that if you know Ratzon Hashem, even though it's not a commandment, it's mechayiv. As one says, the emes is mechayiv, whether it's a commandment or not. We are bound by the truth, and the truth lies in the will of God. Okay, so that's an important thing to know, so there's no steer to that at all. That's what the Gra says. I don't know what Drush I don't deal with. How can one remain focused and productive in yeshiva, dealing with incredible differences in his personal life? That's a personal question. I have to answer that personally. I cannot answer that in the public forum because I think it's custom to each one on his own. What are the rules for learning things from Nach? I just told you what the rules are. If you play safe, you learn things through competent interpreters. Anything outside of that, It's a yes or no or a maybe. You can't learn halacha from nach unless it's a gilul milsa or it's a broadening the scope of a din. It's not. It has to be a drabanan. But I don't think you're in the place where that's not what the question here was. Weiter. How does one stay focused in shir and seder, sleep well, and drink coffee? Why were women never taught Torah? Should this change based on social norms? Yes. Next. Rav Kook, my views on that are quite known, so I don't have to explain this and repeat this. Just make sure that people are taught Torah for the right reason. We have a limited amount of life. And obviously, each person should learn the Torah that he or she has to learn to live a religious life. The din is that what women make, B'Shesha Paskins, Lalacha, that women do not make brachas on mitzvahs asay shazman grama. Because the Einam Mitzvah, he holds that you don't make a bracha. It's a machlekes Rishonim, right? Tais says you do. There are many people that Rishonim say you don't. B'Shesha Paskins, you don't. Yet the Paskins, Halacha, that Isha makes a brichas Torah. He brings the name of the Agur. And the Noisei Kalim asked the question, the Gra asked the question, how is it possible? If they're potter from Talmud Torah, why did they make a bracha on brichas Torah? So obviously the typical brisker will answer, it's not a brichas mitzvah, it's a bracha on the chefza of Torah. It's a cute word, but in my book it says shekichan tzivonu, so that don't work too well. Okay, it's a cute word, but it doesn't work. So anyway, none of the Kalim said that. Okay, the Gra did neither. What the Gra said? The Gra says they're mechuyev in Torah. They're mechuyev to learn all the halachas. You're going to go into business, young lady, you have to be a baki in hilchas ribbis. Now that means to say you don't read some English book of ribbis. You have to learn Nezer Neshech with the Shta, the Tur, and the Shulchan Aruch. You have to know how to learn. Then you go into business. You're going to go into business. You also have to know Nezer Neshech. So I don't have to tell it to you. The only reason you're learning something else at the moment because we're hoping to give you tools to be able to continue a life full of learning. But they're mechuyev to know all the information which will give them halachic behavior, which is a lot. I don't tell it to you. You know, they're chayim chayshemishpat like me. So hichas gzeila, they don't have to know. They're not going to sit in bezdin, okay? So that, but they have to know what hichas aveda. They have to know hichas gzeila v'gneva. They have to know halachas alona schar. They have to know sechas apayim. They know a lot of things they have to learn. They have to learn this, and historically, the only reason they didn't, because at the time people were darning socks and churning butter, had no time for anything. They didn't know how to read, most women. You have to remember, until 1920, women couldn't vote in America. They were perceived as feeble-minded. Let's be honest. Well, as the Virginia Slims advertising goes, you come a long way, baby. You know what I mean? But I have students and colleagues which are serious scholars in many fields, including Talmud. I have one acquaintance, which is a Bucky in Tyrus, better than most Rosh Yeshivas I know. She's a woman. She's actually a student of Shaul Lieberman. Brilliant lady. Yeah, some people which are really isha chashuva. They really know what they're doing, and it's beautiful to see. But the call is this has to be done not on the cheshbon. They have to learn what they have to learn. You're mechuyev in Talmud Torah. You're mechuyev to know. Bavli Yerushalmi, off your finger. V'shinantam shir divrei mufchadan beficha. The reason you're kvetching around here now in Svorish and all that is hopefully to give you the tools of independence to be a serious reader for the rest of your life. If you think you're going to share just to pick some information to put in your pack and your thing, and this doesn't develop your analytical skills and critical reading and thinking, you're missing the boat. Because you're going to leave those notebooks in the Shemus somewhere. You're not going to see them in 2 years from now. You're going to forget them. Forget it. Let's be honest, okay? What's going to be left is the residue of skills and formation of thought and critical analysis and thinking and reading. That's what's going to be. And that's a tool for the future. We're investing. The real mitzvah is to afterwards use these tools and know it. You know, a ganav is not a person who knows how to steal. He has to steal. You know, the guy told me he knows how to learn. So what? He doesn't know anything. He knows how to learn, but he didn't learn yet. It's like he knows how to steal. It's like he's still not called a ganef. You have to steal. No, I love the way he knows how to learn. Oh, he was in Israel for 2 years. He knows how to learn. I want to go. Nachamo, aber wird nicht. You know what I mean? That's called knowing anything. So the crowd is, I'm not joking when I say it, but women are not mechuyev in that. But women are mechuyev to know kol Torah kula, which is negiyah for their halacha l'maisa. And they don't have to depend only on what Mr. Rabbi X writes in Shmir Shabbos Gil Chasoy. They're allowed to write their own Shmir Shabbos Gil Chasoy. By the way, they also have to learn all the divrei Torah which are needed for their emunas Hashem, yuchad Hashem, etc. They have to know all these halachas. They have to know the Mer Nevuchim code. They have to know all the midrashim and gemaras which are explained there to be able to understand that, to verify that. They have to know their kreskes. They have to know the ikrim. They have to know a lot of learning. In Ava, in Yira, in Emunah, in Yediyah, aren't they mechuyev in this? They're mechuyev in it just like you. It doesn't say they're nashim v'anan. So, what heter do you have to learn Mer Nevuchim? Why aren't you learning Gemara? The teretz is because you're Mikayim Yediyas Hashem. What's that? It's a Neicha Hashem Elokecha. They have the same Anoichi like you. So, yes, historically, why they didn't learn? Because I said before, historically women were perceived as, shall we say, feeble-minded. Really, historically was that way. And they were busy churning butter and darning socks, and therefore, even the Rambam, the great thinker, says a simple, shallow people are ktanim v'noshim. Well, he wouldn't say it today. A man would wake up today, he would write it differently. One has to understand that. Is this changing? Yes, it is changing. Is it good that it's changing? Yes, it's good that it's changing. As long as it's done l'shem shamayim, as long as, I always tell my students, before you look for eina mitzvah v'oisa, first make sure you're medagdik everything you're mitzvah v'oisa. So before you start looking for tefillin, make sure your elbows are covered. Okay, make sure your hair is covered, make sure your knees are covered, make sure all the halachas are done kedin v'kedas, you're mekayim all the shulchan aruch way it should be done. You want to do more? Bravo. But the idea, I really want to do more, Rabbi. I think you should also get to your tailor. Okay, and he should also do more for you, and then you'll do, you know what I mean? I do this, I'm you know me, I don't pull punches, okay? And the funny thing is I'm still working there, no one fired me yet. Okay, but yeah, it's the emes. You know, I think a person is, if you're emes, you look for eina mitzvah v'oisa. If you're mamish mak, but in mitzvah v'oisa. This kid comes to talk to me, Rabbi, I don't feel, aliyah in my davening. He says, goodness sakes, have you done vidui today? You know how many averish you have? You're worried about kavanah and davening? Can I start giving you a list of what you've done wrong in the last week? First, clean up your act. Zucht Milas and Ruchnius. I'm a Michael. Do tshuva. He wants to grow wings. It's like Icarus over there. He's going to grow wings which aren't his. Kind of near the sun, he'll drown. It doesn't work that way. Same thing. Bein noshim, bein anoshim. The klal is hapseichel. Weiter. Last one. Rav Kook says there will not be animal sacrifice in the third temple. He does not say that. Whoever told it to you, inaccurate, not true. Simple as that. There's no such thing. I know exactly where this comes from Amar Simchanut, and whoever says this is Loikar Leishon Shimish, Kidarkon Shel Oimrim. If Cook does right, that Achris Hayamim, after the Tikkun HaGadol, we're talking about way after Mashiach, way after, that which we... Another planet, when it says Torah Chadashim Iti Teitzei, then we'll go back to the mile of Adam Rishon Kodem Chet. We won't be eating basar, and you won't even need all these korban. You won't need anything. It'll be another Tzuras Avoda. But that's not at all to do with Messianic era. Not at all to do with the world that the Rambam acknowledges ever existed. Okay, this is more of something which it has more to do with Chachmei Tzarfat, which believed in a world in Gufim after Olam Atchiyah. That's something the Rambam never had, so obviously it doesn't fit with the Rambam's principles. The klal is, but even for us, to say that any change of halacha will occur until that other sense of existence, which God knows when and how that will be, it's nothing to do with anything but in Rambam, it's not part of the Iker de Mills, that's Olam HaGmul, they call it. I don't know what's going to be. I don't know what the matzvah is going to be then. It's basically the world the way until then Torah doesn't change. There will be karbanas. There will be a migdash. Nothing will change. Okay, the best will change. We're going to have a Sanhedrin, so maybe we'll decide to pass halacha b'shamayich. That's within the halachic discipline. So this is lashon hara on a kodesh and a gadol.